Hello everyone, welcome back to another Commander review for Magic the Gathering. Today we're talking about Sekki, Season's Guide, which is a legendary spirit from the Saviors of Kamigawa set. Sekki is a 0/0, but we'll fix that in just a second here. It's a 0/0 for a whopping 8 mana value, 5 generic and 3 green mana. And then it's got a long wall of text. We'll get right on into it. First off, Sekki enters with 8 +1/+1 counters on it, which is very cool. So it's a 5 mana 8/8. If damage would be dealt to Sekki, prevent that damage. Remove that many +1/+1 counters from Sekki, and create that many 1/1 colorless spirit creature tokens. Very cool. So, damage prevention commander, which is very fun, and it's a way to fill your board with spirits. There is a slight downside to this, though, because obviously if Sekki takes 5 damage, it loses 5 counters, and you make 5 spirits, which is cool. There's a little bit of risk there, though. In order, because obviously once Sekki reaches 0, Sekki dies and goes to the graveyard. You should, however, have 8 spirits left over when this is all said and done, which means for the final activated ability, sacrifice 8 spirits. Return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it is a self-reanimating commander. Again, you need to be a little cautious with this because if you don't have the 8 spirits, let's say they damage Sekki for 5 and you make 5 spirits, and then they do some board wipe effect. Not board wipe effect. Let me try that again. Let's say they do Blasphemous Act. That's a great board wipe. So it's dealing damage to everything. It will deal the damage to Sekki. Sekki will prevent it and remove, the remaining 3 counters on it off of it to make spirits. But the problem is the 3 spirits that it makes and then it dies won't do anything because the other 5 that were already in play took 13 damage from the same Blasphemous Act. So you only have 3 spirits, which is not enough to reanimate Sekki. So really cool card, really self-sufficient and self-recurring commander, but you have to be careful because if you don't have the 8 spirits, you can't get it back into play. Aside from that, there's no card rulings for this commander. It's very straightforward. Really expensive to get out the door. However, did I say this was a 5 mana 8/8? It's an 8 mana 8/8. I'm silly. But just be mindful, once you get that 8 mana to get it into play initially, and you build around it properly, it should be pretty self-sufficient from that point forward. Speaking of synergies for commanders, Visions of Dominance I think was a fun option, not only because you can cast it for 3 mana and double the counters on Sekki, which is important to fill the board with spirits so it can self-reanimate itself, but it can do it again from exile, which is very cool. And the flashback cost is reduced by X colorless mana, where X is the greatest mana value of a commander you own on the battlefield or in the command zone, which is fantastic because obviously we want to make sure we cast this while Sekki is in play, which is an 8 mana creature. So that means the flashback cost on Visions of Dominance will only be 2 mana. So this is essentially a 5 mana spell as long as your commander's in play, which is really, really powerful. Really powerful. And the fact that you can double up counters on Sekki means it can last longer and it'll make more spirits. Speaking of making more spirits, a popular deck idea on EDH Rec is really honing in on making those spirits and getting those +1/+1 counters. This is surprisingly a fight deck where you are using your commander to remove threats, creature threats off the board. And then I wanted to make sure that you had ways to get more counters on your commander as they're getting removed as well. And then some great protection towards you. If you're ever getting hit, is Pariah's Shield. It goes to your commander. You make spirits instead, and then if your commander dies, you can sacrifice those spirits to bring it back with 8 more +1/+1 counters to repeat the process all over again. And then lastly, I really wanted to go in on the doubling aspect, the doubling theme. Now there are some really expensive cards that you could get for this idea, as well as the previous idea, that are all about doubling counters on creatures. However, there's so much of that in green, I don't think you have to worry about getting the expensive cards. You probably could get a lot of the more lower budget cards and still be able to have a lot of fun in this regard. And there's a lot of ways to double the counters on your creatures or on permanents in mono green. There's a lot of instant and sorcery based stuff, several enchantment based ways to do it, and then as a fun backup build around sub theme, because we're so heavy on the +1/+1 counters theme, is the Phantom cycle of cards, which isn't really a cycle, but there are several spirits, notably they are spirits, and they're in green. There are some in green white as well as in mono white, but obviously we're going to use all the mono green ones. But they are Phantom blank, so this is the Phantom Nantuko, which is probably one of the best. The really cool reason why I want to put Phantoms in this deck as a sub-feature or a sub-strategy is they do the same thing as your commander. They prevent the damage that's dealt to them, but they only remove one counter at a time when they take the damage. So these make for great blockers and great attackers, especially if we can continuously double the number of counters on them and our commander. And again, they are spirits, so if worse comes to worse, they are extra spirits that you can use to bring your commander back if you absolutely need to. Hopefully you don't, though. And that, I think, is a fun deck idea. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this idea. And that's going to do it for Sekki Seasons Guide. Really cool commander, really fun, different build-arounds you can go with this commander. It's mono green, it's got 3 green pips, so there's devotion. You can do mono green aristocrats because it cares about sacrificing itself. Sacrificing the spirits to get it back, and then you need ways to damage it so then it can die. Do it over again, over and over and over. So this fun mono green aristocrats would be really cool. And you can look at all those different deck ideas on EDH Rec. This has got tons of different deck ideas, so it has the rank of S. And let me know in the comments below if there's anything I missed or different deck ideas that you want to try for this commander, and what you guys think about doing a doubling season kind of deck with this commander. And thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for all your support. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!